This is one of those debates that will go down in internet history.
Commentator and author Douglas Murray appeared on the #1 podcast in the world, The Joe Rogan Experience, where he spectacularly called out Joe Rogan.
We have so many people looking at the same debate coming away with different conclusions.
This is the end here. Murray has won my heart.
Joe Rogan's audience completely revolted against Douglas Murray.
He starts out by questioning Joe Rogan's motivation. What's the game that you're playing? The unspoken subtext game.
Do you think you've had enough people on who are supportive of either war?
I don't know that word enough, if that's a good word.
Let's say enough people who are on the side of Israel instead of wild critics.
It's become this thing where you're either on the side of Israel or you're on the side of Palestine, and that equates to, are you on the side of Ukraine?
Do you think you've tilted one way?
Me personally?
No, just with the guests you've had.
The guests? Yeah, probably more tilted towards the idea that perhaps the way they've done it is barbaric.
Mm-hmm. But why do you think that is?
He's big on, I'm going to talk to whoever I find interesting. I don't really care what anyone thinks about that.
I don't think about it that way. I just think I'd like to talk to this person.
But he does that right off the bat, which affects the frame, the entire frame of everything surrounding the debate. The picture that you're painting sits within this frame. It's your reason for engaging in the debate. I think the smart frame would be to embrace the complexity of it. It seems to be vastly more complicated, and the truth resides somewhere in the middle of these two camps. So when Douglas Murray's talking about the checkpoints...
How brutal do you think the Egyptians are?
Pretty brutal. Yeah.
They allowed stuff in.
Okay, I mean, some stuff has gotten in. Yes, that's true.
More than some stuff.
Okay.
More than some stuff.
Okay,
He could use the example of, I think this is more complicated than you realize, and because I've been there, I've seen that complexity, and I might be able to offer some understanding on the nuance of what's actually going on. If he had just kept it consolidated to that point, but instead he got derailed and it became a larger conversation.
No deficit?
No, there are
no goods were kept out.
There are plenty. How many? Have you been to the crossing points?
That's when he asks, have you been there?
No.
When were you last there at all?
I've never been.
You've never been?
You've never been? Well, how can you talk about this?
If you're going to spend a year and a half talking about a place, you should at least do the courtesy of visiting it.
All right.
But then he's asked, well, have you seen Daryl Cooper's work? You say, no, I haven't even seen his work. It's like, okay, well, you're contradicting yourself. You're doing the very thing.
So what is your argument? Well, let's hear the circuitous logic he uses.
Very weird thing to go back, zone in on a man, say this one thing is a mistake and should characterize him, and you ignore everything else.
You're taking him out of context when you're talking about Daryl.
I happen to disagree with Daryl Cooper on his take on Winston Churchill. His argument seems to be that Churchill wanted the war more than anyone, but the big counter to that logically is that Churchill came into office in 1940. Churchill was thrust into it midstream. It's the idea that there is some evil in the world that cannot be reasoned with. There was something unique about the evil being faced that was bent on domination. It's fine if you want to disagree on that and have that conversation. Embrace the complexity and the nuance of it. I think the wise strategy is to say, I'll have a conversation with anyone. Contend with the logic, not the person.
He'll do anything except engage Dave Smith's actual arguments. This is circular logic. It's all semantical. Yeah. None of it means anything.
So you're assuming that the other person has genuine points to offer. And when they make good, genuine points, acknowledge it, point that out. But instead, he got derailed and it became a larger conversation.
You're not even talking about specifically on what he just said.
Yes.
No, I'm saying this is my point about this. You say, I'm not an expert.
So what's the solution? To not talk about it?
No, it's to have more experts around.
That's where he made the mistake of claiming that you shouldn't be talking about this without expertise, which is immediately going to set people off. Present internet culture is built around the idea of thinking for oneself and questioning the experts. So that idea of you must be an expert is not going to sit well.
His whole argument is you're not an expert.
Why did this trigger such a response around this expertise debate, the gender debate? It's very frustrating when you're met with, well, are you a neuroscientist? Are you a biologist? Well, you can't speak on this because you're not a biologist. There's that condescending game that's played that really rubs people the wrong way, and this is kind of flipping that switch.
I'm an expert on this, and I have used
enough!
I'm a comedian.
I've never claimed to be an expert on anything.
This is the problem, Joe. I mean, if somebody
Wait a minute,
says
you have to claim to be an expert on something to have an opinion on something?
you don't have to be. You don't have to be.
Well, that's what you're saying.
And that's what we saw. This pushback in comments has been overwhelming.
That's what this show was. Do you want to see more of it? That's what it was like for 3 hours straight.
So when we are looking at nonverbal, the problem is that we cannot treat it equal to verbal communications. Otherwise, it leads to arguments such as J.K. Rowling is transphobic. Yes, she hasn't said anything transphobic, but she wouldn't be foolish enough to say that out loud. But her nonverbal behavior indicates that she's transphobic.
This does create a fertile ground for people to say, I wonder if they were lying about all these wars.
Sure.
Again, I'm not really trying to argue with you about World War II. I'd rather argue about these wars today.
I think the interesting question is whether you're busy watering it.
Well, should you not talk about mistakes that were made overall?
Absolutely.
Okay, you should.
Absolutely.
So he's immediately contradicting himself.
What is the larger game being played? That's the picture Douglas Murray is trying to paint.
They can look at what is happening to a portion of the right everywhere on this stuff. There is a portion of the right across the West that is playing this
Dangerous
very
game.
dark game, and they're doing it deliberately.
You're judging people's intentions at that point, which can be a dangerous game to play. It doesn't mean that it's not wise to think for yourself and to observe these larger patterns so you can anticipate in your day-to-day life what is coming next, what are they likely to do. So that plays a role in understanding the frame, but do not treat the frame the same as what the person you're debating actually says. And I think that is a mistake that we see here.
So again, he'll do anything except engage Dave Smith's actual arguments.
He could have made the same points by avoiding these traps. So unfortunately, the good points he made were buried by this mistake.
Well, I mean, I don't disagree with that, and I've certainly done the same thing and said that, like, I don't know, like, I don't like Jew hatred on Twitter, and I don't like people jumping to wild conspiracies that they don't have nearly enough evidence to, actually back up, which I've seen quite a bit of. That being said, I also think there's a whole lot of real conspiracies, and I'm not going to stop talking about those just because some people on Twitter might take it in a bad direction.
Well, as the great Michael Malice said, and as you quoted, one red pill, not the whole bottle.
I've been trying to limit people to one red pill. One red pill a year.
Problem is that a lot of people, they take one of those things and they just get hungry.
Sort of like boosters. Do you have a heart out, Douglas?
Kind of. I got to get to DC.
Okay.
One of my least favorite cities in the country, but
Another area of agreement. There we go.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. Appreciate it. It was very, very good. I enjoyed it very much, and thank you, Dave.
I do. Of course, thank you to you, John. Thank you, Douglas, very much. I do appreciate that. While we do fundamentally disagree on a lot of this stuff, I do admire that you will have these conversations.
Let's show everyone the book here. It's Jesus Christ.